Good evening, race fans, and welcome to our coverage of PCA Sim Racing Series 9. Tonight is Challenge Class event 4, live here on Podium Esports. I'm Rachel Whiteford, and with me in the booth tonight is DJ Clark. Ryan Bauer is producing this evening and using cameras provided by Dougie Beard. After 3 tough tracks to open Series 9, we moved to more open circuits for our last 4 events. But tonight, we're at the hump, and mark halfway the championship. Welcome to Indy. Pirelli is back as the PCA Sim Racing title sponsor for Series 9. Pirelli was founded in Milan in 1872 and today stands as a global brand known for its cutting-edge technology, high-end production, excellence, and passion for innovation that draws heavily on its Italian roots. Pirelli is among the world's major producers of tyres and is an OEM supplier to Porsche. Find out more about Pirelli at www.pirelli.com. Six Sigma Sim Racing was founded in 2021 by automotive engineers as a new sim racing equipment provider. After 1 year, Six Sigma now has divisions in the USA, Japan, Australia, and Europe, providing the best valued sim racing cockpits and peripherals. As a PCA member or sim racing driver, Six Sigma offers 10% off from their website selections, and the coupon code is PCA Sim. It is PCA Sim. More information about Six Sigma Sim Racing, please visit the website sixsigmasimracing.com. Well, welcome to Indianapolis on the road course here. DJ, we got some information to talk about here. Tell us about this track.
I do indeed. This is obviously the new scan here of the Indianapolis Motor Speedway, incorporating that new section coming through turns 5 and 6, that quick chicane there that will bring drivers onto Holman Way and down into turn 7. Now, the couple of key areas to really keep in mind here is turn 1. That's a crucial area for 2 reasons. Number 1, it is your primary overtaking opportunity. And then number 2, it's also an area where you can get things a little bit wrong, carry a little bit too much speed through that corner. You can feel the rear end start to break away from you. Then looking down at turn 7, that looks like it should be a pretty good overtaking opportunity, but not really the best of places. We don't tend to see a whole lot there, but where we do see some surprise moves is from the run from turn 10 down into turn 12, that hard right-hander. That is definitely an area to get some sneak attacks done, so keep your eyes open for that over the course of the night.
Absolutely. And of course, the weird part about this one, DJ, we go the opposite way to Indy. So it's kind of confuses my brain.
Yeah, it does indeed. We've obviously been running on this opposite clockwise layout in Indianapolis since 2000 when Formula One first made their appearance here. Now this road course is home to all sorts of racing across the motor racing spectrum.
Very much is, and well, we're getting our first, or last I should say, laps of qualifying in now. As usual for the Challenge Series, we're running a 15-minute heat race tonight, followed by our 40-minute feature where they will need to refuel. So, of course, something to do there. Now, we've got points up here on the screen. This is how it stands currently after 4 rounds. Todd Roseman on 777 points. That is a nice number. He's from zone number 8. Zone number 6, Mike Adams, 761 in second. Andrew Kenny from zone 1, 750. Fourth is Scott Bowers, also from zone 1 on 724. With 5th place being Zone 10's Ed Trippett. We've got behind them Mark Frost from Zone 6. Zone 4's John Gibson. Zone 6 is Stacey Owata. Zone 2's Eric Kaufman. And Zone 1's Jonathan Reba in 10th. So quite a spread there, DJ. Not as close as I think some people might want. However, the top 3, at least 4 positions here are within spitting distance.
Yeah, they certainly are. And with a track like this where the draft is really going to come into play, and we're seeing some pretty narrow margins up at the top of the field, I think this is going to really help to just even more close this field down a little bit. And it means it's going to be a fantastic run for all of these drivers. It's going to be one that keeps them on their toes throughout the course of the entire race.
I think that's also doubly because this track is unpredictable. It seems pretty cookie cutter. It's an infield roval track, but it's not exactly ideal in places. There are some sections, especially where there's rather bumpy terrain in here. It could upset the car.
Yeah, very much so. Specifically coming down into turn one, that's really the first area and really the only area that we see elevation change on the circuit. There's a little bit of a dip as you come off of the banking. But to your point, Rachel, you've got to watch out for the curbs around here through turns 5 and 6, coming down into turn 12, and then again into turn 1. Very, very high amounts of curbs. You've got to be very, very careful going over those, not only because you can pick up a 1X if you go over them, but also because they can throw the car off and potentially throw you into a spin.
Can indeed. Few seconds left here on our setup phase here for starting grid of our heat race. What's the grid? We've got Scott Bowers out front with Eric Kaufman in second. Mike Adams is in third place. Drew Kenny in fourth. Todd Roseman, our points leader. Fifth place. Mark Frost in sixth. Randy Levold in seventh. John Gibson in eighth. Edward Trippett in 9th, and Stacey Iwata in 10th.
Yeah, there as we look down through the rest of the field, Lidback, Nelson, Crane, Johan Nye, Sherwood down there, DJ Sell on the back of the field.
Green flag flies, we're going here. Quick start, actually, in fact, Indianapolis. Run down here to quite a difficult first corner. We're turning in very abruptly here after a big, wide run. It'll narrow down incredibly quickly here as they arrive at turn 1. We've got 3 wide, several places in the pack here. Some people bailing out and braking early. Contact already. Car around from second place. That is Kaufman, I believe. Not Kaufman. It's one of the cars that was around him, though. We will find out who that was. That was a 13 machine of Adams. Gets turned sideways in turn 1. Oh, no. Look back at after the lap. We've also got Eric Kaufman off as well, and a few others at the moment. We will look back at these in a second once things have calmed down, but sorry, race control, you're going to be busy already.
Yeah, they very much are. I think that first spin that we saw up at the front of the field in the green machine, that appeared to be a self-spin, having a little bit of problem there on some colder tires. Want to give some credit, though, to Drew Kenny. He had a lightning start in the 14, a little bit of contact there at the beginning coming down into turn 1, but I think that was sort of pushed by the wayside courtesy of that incident in front of him, and now Kenny finds himself up into P2.
He does indeed. There's a little bit of rubbing, shall we say, in turn 1 that might have led to what happened there. We'll take a look at replay in just a few moments, but Gibson here in 4th, looking to have made a big advantage here. He's up from 8th. Now, this doesn't mean these guys are out. This is the heat. So unfortunately for the likes of those guys that spun out, they'll have to work their way back up if they want a good starting spot for the main event here. Mark Frost in 3rd. He started 6th. There's been some big movement. Let's try and take a look back at what actually happened in turn 1 here, DJ. Do you want to take us through it?
Yeah, let's see if we've got some of that replay ready to be pulled up here as they go. Drivers continuing to work their way down into the corner. We're going to stay on live pictures for the moment. Mark Frost being able to hold off John Gibson. Gibson not looking like he was close enough there to be able to get that draft to play. And I've got to give massive credit here to Scott Bowers. He is absolutely pulling away at the front of the field into this heat race. Already a gap of about 4 seconds.
Got it, indeed. Here's that replay, actually. We're taking a look at what happened as they run into turn 1. And we've got a lot of movement, but a little bit further forward, we see it's 3 wide, 2 deep in 2 sections, and we don't get to catch the exact moment there, but oh, that was unsafe. Moving forwards, that might catch him some ire. We're looking here from the very front of your field, and you'll see the green car in the near foreground. Netcode, maybe? That looked more like netcode.
Yeah, there looked to be a little bit of air in between Kenny and Adams there as they came down into the corner, and that was why I originally thought that was a self-spin, taking a look at that. But nevertheless, we'll have to hear what Race Control has to say about those opening lap incidents. As you said earlier, Rachel, they're going to keep themselves busy here tonight.
Certainly are on board with Levold here in 7th place. Started 7th, still running 7th. Quiet race for him so far, trying to keep himself out of danger. Get a good solid start for our main event here today. Already on lap number 3. This is how quickly these laps go by. 1 minute 24 is our ballpark, really. So we're looking at here, DJ, and that is not a huge lap. In fact, looking at our gridding order, our fastest time, of course, for qualifying was 1:23.9, and 1:24.9 is only 10th place, so it's a fairly spread out field in terms of speed.
Yeah, pretty spread out here. We're going to see a little bit of closer running here. As we said, we focus in on the number 3 right now. That's Randy Lervold trying to be able to close in on the back of Edward Trippett as they continue to come down their way into turn 7 right now, jumping onto the binders. Now, like I said earlier, that turn 7, it looks like it's a prime overtaking opportunity, but Rachel, for whatever reason, it's just that the Holman Way there isn't quite long enough to be able to pull that draft. The braking zone not nearly as strong as there's a car around there in front. I'm not sure who that is exactly. That looks like the number 20 of Ronald Simeon.
I think you're right there, DJ. Definitely a tumultuous first heat here at Indianapolis for the Porsche Club of America. But so far, Scott Bowers is out front by a comfortable margin, nearly 4 seconds. Looking back from Trippett there in 5th place. He's just moved up in front of Stacey Owata, who's now down in 7th. So Stacey Owata, I think, went backwards. It's probably more accurate here, DJ, rather than Trippett going forwards. In fact, losing 2 spots there for Owata as the Vold has come through as well. Seeing the field advancing here. So far, not a good day for Adams. He's down in 21st. Second, Eric Kaufman on the grid, 24th. Both are running again, but it's not a great setup.
No, it's not, and they're thankfully going to have a little bit of redemption in the form of that feature race later. But remember that you do score points here in the heat as well, so that is valuable points starting to strip away. We close in again on that battle right now for P2. Drew Kenny, Mark Frost, John Gibson, everybody running very close, and a very festive livery there for the number 16 of Mark Frost.
Frosty the Go Man. I came up with that on the spot. You're welcome.
It's fantastic. I love it.
No, a great car though. I love seeing the snowman. That's the fastest snow I've seen since it was stuck to the wing of a Delta flight. But at the moment, these guys get themselves back moving here and going again. The lap times are still pretty consistent from what we've seen. Oh, got a car going around. That's Kaufman. He's just had a bit of a solo moment. We won't show that because he just lost it himself in one of the corners towards the end of the lap. But day going from bad to worse for Eric Kaufman. Looking up towards the sharp end now. I think that's a 911 of Gibson we're looking at there. See one of the guys come down pit road. That's Kenny. What's wrong for him? He shouldn't need to pit. He's got a black flag. I think that's going to be our net code moment there for Kenny, unfortunately.
Yeah, I've got to agree with you there on that. That was issued by Race Control. I'm also seeing David Purdy being issued a penalty as well. Lots of these penalties being issued out here by Race Control as we sort of speculated. Very, very busy here in the early going. A little bit of a good run there, though, for the Rainbow Machine of John Gibson. He's going to be able to pull away from Mark Frost a little bit as they come down Holman Way. That'll buy him some breathing room, about 0.5 of a second, but he's going to need more than that to truly slip off into the distance.
Yeah, he is indeed, and notably Eric Kaufman picking up a black flag too to make his terrible day that got worse even worse. Why? Well, as we saw in the replay at the start there, after he was spun out, he tried to go forwards, possibly to get out of the line of the traffic, but in doing so, when you're spun out on the racing surface, DJ, you hold that brake till the track is clear. You don't try and get moving because, as we saw, he pulled forward and collected a car.
Yeah, exactly. If you are in that position, what you have to do is be predictable to the drivers around you. And the best way to do that is hold the brakes, stay stationary, even if you are in prone in the middle of the track. We take a look here at Tim Schrock back down in 16th right now. He's trying to close down on Art Schwartz in the 82. Carries some great speed there through turn 10. And I think that's going to set him up for a good move here coming down into 12.
It is indeed. Loving the Smiths t-shirt there as well on him. And the whole racing setup. Yeah, we got it back again. Great choice of music there. Hopefully making him go faster. Maybe he's listening to it right now.
Maybe yes, indeed. Everybody's got to have that little bit of driving music as they go.
Did you see that white Porsche? Oh no, he went to pit road. I thought he was deciding to take a journey into the land of grass, but no, he was taking the pit road entrance. So that's going to be one of our, I believe that was Art Schwartz. And Jason Sherwood also hitting a black flag now. My gosh, Race Controller throwing them out like candy right now. One for you. You get one. You get one. Pretty sure Oprah is on the Race Control team right now. But it was a messy first lap, so this is understandable. These guys are very strict and very fair on how they deal with this sort of stuff. And it's definitely what makes this one of the most clean series I've had the pleasure of commentating. Everyone is accountable no matter who they are. But now we're seeing Bowers leading by 7.5 seconds ahead of Gibson. Frost in third. Frosty the Go Man is definitely going somewhere. He's up from 6th on the grid. 9th to 4th, Edward Trippett. With Levold in the 5th spot, he is up from 7th. So biggest gains in terms of our, well, Gibson 8th to 2nd. Him and Frost are, so him and Trippett, they're going to be the biggest advantage drivers when it comes to our main event grid, because they are now so much further up than they were.
Yeah, they certainly are. They're going to find themselves in a very, very good position here. Trippett, I don't think, is really going to have a chance to be able to catch back in as we take a look farther back down into the field right now. This is Andy McCune and Drew Kenny. Kenny carrying a little bit more speed on the exit of turn 14. Let's see if he's able to tuck up into the draft here. He's going to poke down to the inside. This looks like it's going to be a pretty clean, cut and dry move for Kenny. Onto the binders, going down into turn 1. Can he get to the apex? Yes, he can. And just as I said, perfect, clean as you please.
Absolutely is there. Beautiful move for that position, but looking right now on board with Levold, Pacific Northwest region driver, 2 spots up from where he started, looking to gain something more here. That'd be Trippett, one of our big movers up ahead of him, as I'm seeing Kaufman hit pit road yet again. Well, this could be his first time. What has Levold got in the bag here for Edward Trippett, DJ?
Well, I think here he's definitely starting to close in. He carried a little bit too much speed coming through turn 13. That's going to compromise his corner exit here. And indeed, you see a little bit too much steering action there on the wheel itself. You want to keep that as smooth as possible coming back out and onto the banking. That's going to scrub speed for him, and that's not going to put him in a position to be able to get himself ahead for Randy Lervold there. He's going to have to just keep applying pressure here. I think one of the best ways to be able to do this here is see if he can maybe force Trippett into a mistake at this point.
Not the worst decision there, in fact. One of the best ways to pass someone is to not have to pass them at all. So there is that. Drew Kenny here, looking for a move on going to be DJ Sal. In no way related to the other DJs involved in our broadcasting with a race controller in the booth here, I think. Right, DJ?
So far as I know, unless there is some weird blood relation that I'm not aware of, I don't think we're related.
Just making sure, you never know. That way we're getting rid of any accusations of nepotism when it comes to the broadcast. But good move there, in fact, on the 071 of Cell with Kenny. That's McCune, in fact, getting through there. So Andrew McCune jumping this position as well, along with Drew Kenny. So Cell going backwards here, but he went up pretty far. He was 26th to 11th, so it's been a great race for him at the moment. We are 8 laps in, and we are approximately looking at about 3 minutes remaining. So this one has flown by.
Yeah, it certainly has. And to your point about DJ Sell there, he is currently tied for our biggest mover of the race, up 13 positions, as is Robert Benson. We take another look on board here of Randy Lervold. Later on to the binders there, almost a little bit of contact with Edward Trippett, and now he's going to try to carry a little bit more speed around the outside of turn 2. That is actually going to slow him down a little bit. It's going to cost him. He's got to be a little bit more patient here, Rachel. You don't want to bite off more than you can chew. I think this position is his for the asking. He's just got to find that opportune moment to get on by.
Absolutely does, and I think he will, but we'll have to let him do what he can do here. Levold, they're looking for the opening. Trippett's been very fast. He's gained a lot, but like Levold, they've both gained from drivers losing out. So we'll have to see what they're going to do here. They're balanced incredibly tightly on track speed. I think you're right, though. The pressure Levold can impart will be his most likely attempt to pass Edward Trippett here.
Yeah, he's going to have a little bit of a look there down into turn 12. Now, that wasn't a full committed move there. I think what Lervold was trying to do is just fill those rear view mirrors of Trippett, try to see if he can make him make a little bit of a mistake. But I believe as they come to the line here, this is going to be 2 laps to go for both of these drivers. So they have got to be, you've got to be making this move here if you are Randy Lervold sooner rather than later. As we are going to jump around here, this is Alex Libek right now trying to close down on Stacy Owada, trying to see what he is able to do. This gap kind of came out of nowhere here as Libek just able to close this down in the last couple of minutes, Rachel. Looks like a pretty good run here for him. Let's see if he's able to hold this out. The 11 hopefully being able to close in, but he's also got to worry about what's going on behind him there as Levi Nelson looks like he's threatening.
He does indeed, and this is what happens when you give a rousing piece of commentary, pressing the wrong push to talk button. It's always one of those issues, but Nelson is looking very hungry here. Can he make this move on Lidback? Closing moments here, we've got just under a minute remaining, so we will see this lap and one more. So this will be our white flag for these guys, but right now it's looking pretty tight. We will hit 0 before Bowers can come back around again, so this will be a white flag waving in the air for our race leader. And that is behind him a lap down car. No one within range. 8.7 seconds clear for Bowers. First on the grid, winning by nearly 9 seconds. This is a statement piece by Bowers who wants this win. A bit further back the field, we've got some movement here. Big bravery moment into turn 1. Who will hold it? Oh, nicely executed there. Levold and Trippett making that move work, but right now, Levold can't find that door.
No, he really can't, and I've got to give a lot of credit there to Edward Trippett. He made a mistake coming down through turns 12 and 13, caught a little bit too much of the curbing, actually hopped that triple four machine up onto 2 wheels as they came down through the corner. I thought for sure he was going to be compromised and lose that position, but just held his line, and that was able to hold it out here. Now, Lervold's really only going to have one more shot at this, but as we look a little farther up in the field right now, Scott Bowers just absolutely running away with this, not looking like he wants to make a move here on the 864 in front of him of Tom Crane. He is going to cruise to victory here in this opening heat race.
Absolutely is no trouble whatsoever for that as through will come. And Scott Bowers will take the win in Heat 1 today of tonight's race. Followed eventually by John Gibson. Here's Levold. Has he got the opportunity? No real time left to do this unless he can get a mad draft here on the run down to 1 and 2. It will not be close enough, and he will not be able to do anything about it. As under the flag will go Trippett. Close but no cigar.
Yes, indeed. As we look a little further back, that is Lidback able to hold off Levi Nelson. Nelson not able to get it. And to your point there about Trippett, I think what Lervold learned over the course of that is where to execute those moves, where to be fast, where to get that speed. Now, it may not have paid out dividends here in this heat race, but rest assured, he'll be learning those lessons and he'll be able to apply them here to our 40-minute feature that'll be coming up in just a few moments' time.
Certainly will. Well, that race will be coming up in just a few moments, as DJ just said. Last of our lead lap cars coming across the line here. That's Adams and I believe Schrock as well. Purdy now coming to the end of the lap just behind him, with Hemmig as well. Some interesting organisation here in how these cars are positioned relative to each other. Tom Crane last in the lead lap as well. 19th place here. We'll have to see what the race could hold for the likes of Todd Roseman and Eric Kaufman. 2 drivers in the point standings and in the position to really take advantage here now with a hugely uphill battle as the last of those guys will come across the line there. Crane, Purdy and Reba. Well, after our first heat, this is our rundown. Scott Bowers in first place. John Gibson in second. Mark A. Frost kept it cool and put it in third. Fourth is Edward Trippett. Randy Levold in fifth. Couldn't quite make it in the end. Stacey Owata 6th, Alec Lidback, Levi Nelson, Jack Stevenson, and Robert Benson in 10th. The rest of those positions up on your screen. As DJ, this first round has told us a great deal heading into the feature.
Yeah, it really and truly has, and I think what it's really done here is it's shaken out the standings a little bit. We saw a lot of very quick drivers, a little over-eager at the start of the race, and they found themselves farther back in the field. I'm looking at the likes of Drew Kenny here. I think he's going to be one in particular to keep your eye on over the course of this 40-minute feature to maybe try to move his way up through the field a little bit more. I also think that you're going to see potentially a little bit more caution going down into turn 1 in this feature race. And the other thing, we talked about this in the battle with Trippett and Lervold, a lot of these drivers using this time to be able to try to figure out what these other drivers are doing, what some of their characteristics and what they like to do out on track are going to be. So if they're able to take full advantage of that, really learn from the other drivers, watch for those drivers like Lervold to maybe be able to get a little bit of a springboard going forward.
Most certainly there, as we'll see how this one does play. Well, that is our first heat race, and we'll be coming back in just a few minutes with your main event tonight, the 40-minute feature. Do not forget, though, are you struggling to consistently go faster? Do you know how to find another 10th off your lap time? Join our very own physicist, Nikki Chan, from the Pro Series to learn all about driving technique, car setup, telemetry analysis, and more via YouTube videos on last10th.com. Nikki is also available for one-on-one coaching and custom setup sessions. Contact him on Discord for a trial session now, so you can squeeze that last 10th off your lap time. Last 10th, better car, better driver. If you want to check out, if you're interested in getting your speed up and getting out of challenge to some of these other series we have with the Porsche Club America, including the Sport Club and Pro classes we have, of course, as always. But DJ, this I think has taught us that turn 1 is deadly, that passing here is incredibly hard, and then it's hard to force a mistake.
Yeah, I think those are the real 3 keys to take away from that first race. Turn 1, particularly tricky. The other thing that we're going to have to keep an eye on in the course of this 40-minute feature is going to be a little bit of tire wear. Now, this is a shorter race as compared to the hour-long races that we saw for the Pro and in other classes here, but they're going to have to keep that in mind. It's only about 72 degrees Fahrenheit out on track, but it's very easy to overheat the rear tires a little bit, and if you start to do that, the rear end of these Porsche 911 GT3s will start to break away from you here, and especially through some of these faster corners, you'll see the car just sort of go into a lazy slide, and will start to spin out, and that's something you've got to watch out for. And so I think that's going to be another wrinkle here to throw into the equation of this longer race.
100% it will be. Well, getting those times down now. We've got a couple of minutes here of warm-up. In fact, only 1.5 really left at the moment, so 1 minute 11 to be precise. We'll get ourselves ready for the main event here. We'll get our running order for that in just a moment's time. In fact, it was your finishing order from the last heat. Isn't that convenient? We know exactly where people will start. What this tells us, though, DJ, we're going to have 2 very fast cars at the back here to be a major threat. Of course, Kaufman, Roseman, and to a slightly lesser extent, Galeas.
Yeah, very much
coming
so.
Forward very quickly.
Yeah, I think they're going to be very, very good to keep an eye on. I also think Drew Kenny is going to be another one to keep an eye on. He'll be starting at about the mid-pack here of this feature race, as he was able to gain a few positions back after taking that penalty in the heat race. So he's going to be another one to keep an eye on as they continue to go. Now, it's going to be easy for them to try to gain some positions here early on in the race, as some of the drivers who didn't have the best heat race are going to be around them. It'll be harder when they get farther and farther up the field. But my real question is, does anybody have anything for Scott Bowers?
I think that's going to be a tough question, because this man loves his bricks. That's very easy to see.
Well, as somebody who knows this place all too well, Rachel, I'll tell you that those bricks have a very special appeal to them.
I only won once at Indy. It wasn't an Indy 500, but I did go drink milk. I knew I wasn't going to get another opportunity to, so I felt like I had to. Either way, here we go. After that weird anecdote for you, here we go with our starting order. You saw it a minute ago. It's our finishing order. Here's the rest of your field coming up now to 26th on the grid. It's going to get really spicy as the flagman gets ready to kick this thing off, and we hope they learned something from last time about how turn 1 works. You slow down, you turn race car, you go fast. In that particular order, and nothing else. But we will soon find out exactly how they're planning to do it here at Indianapolis. The engines rev. And we are away. Here we go. A big start now. We've already got 3 wide further forward. They're not learning. Iwata led back Nelson there. We've got 2 lots of 3 wide here heading into turn 1. A tricky one for it, DJ, because this narrows down so hard. Okay, well, let's do 4. Well, this can't go wrong. Let's do 4. It's somehow working. I'm actually impressed.
And look at that, Rachel. I said Drew Kenning was one to watch out for. Up 5 positions since the drop of the green flag. He is flying out here. Randy Lervold also up 2. We have got some drivers that are being very, very aggressive. They know they've got some speed here early on.
Absolutely do. My gosh, this is... I think I was expecting explosions of the Michael Bay order into turn 1 that time, but that was phenomenal execution. These guys gave each other just enough room to be careful there, leading to a phenomenal run through that first corner, an absolute bottleneck, as I was about to say, before I thought the apocalypse was upon us, and it was not. So Bowers being kept honest at the moment by Gibson, but he's already making a break here. The gap's already widening. This is unreal. Like, can anyone challenge him? Because he seems to have this track in a different gear.
Yeah, he certainly does. Already 1 second up at the front of the field, and that is crucial because that means he is going to be out of effective draft range. As we look a little farther back down in the order right now, there is your leader streaking by on your camera, Bowers, Gibson, Lervold, as they fly onto the main straightaway here, working their way around. Looks like Gibson was able to pull it down a little bit. It's just under a second. We're going to jump back here to P8. Stacey Owada thinking about a move.
Is indeed. Stacey Owada looking for an opportunity here as we go onwards. And Owada looking for movement here on Nelson. Really not quite going to find a spot for a lead back, keeping them honest behind. Another car coming up as well. I believe that's going to be... Is that already? No way. No, it's definitely not. Okay, never mind. I got very confused for a second there, thinking we had a car much further up the field than we did. But I think it might have been Adams. In fact, it was Adams' car. Green Machine. He's catching up as well pretty quickly. Good start for him. But again, he was 3rd on the grid. We know he's fast here, DJ.
Yeah, we really do know he is quick, and I think he's going to be another one to try to maybe see what he is able to get here as we focus right now on the number 3, Randy Lervold. Keeping things interesting here with John Gibson, not letting Gibson run his own race, trying to put up some pressure there. Got to be careful. That's one of those big curbs that I talked about in pre-race, and it looked like there that Randy Lervold was taking a big, big heaping of it.
Absolutely is, and wow, he does exactly that as we go onwards now. Keeping himself in a strong spot here. Lots of stuff still to do. Can he manage to keep that car in a strong position? It'll be very important to do so. Gap's widening though significantly on that front straight. A lot of these guys struggling on this long straight, but really powerful when they get to the infield. Better cornering. Worse exit from that big bank corner. Perhaps, I think probably like me, it feels weird going the wrong way around it, even though for road drivers it is normal. Yeah, onboarded Benson there in 14th. Looking towards Reba in front of him. Nearly called him Bieber. That would have been unfortunate. Reba, though, does make that move. McCune ahead of him. Bit of a gap there, though. That will make things difficult. 3 seconds on the board. I think Benson just got past Reba in this positioning.
Yeah, I think he did as well. As we now ride on board the hood there, you can see that gap starting to expand a little bit up in front of him onto the binders here, down into turn 7. Little bit off of that apex, it has to be said, as here we check up Drew Kenny, another driver that I said to keep an eye on. He is all over the back of Edward Trippett. He's going to have that look going down into turn 12. Later on the binders, Trippett with a stout defense, though, going to be able to keep that going, and Trippett's going to be able to hold on to P4.
Absolutely is. Great move there as a big look by Adams. Sorry, I can't help that. I've just been watching Wednesday, which is fantastic, by the way. Less about that, more about the racing. But Michael Adams keeping with 1D, trying to gain spots here. Really regaining quite quickly, in fact. He's up from 14th on the grid. That is our biggest mover so far, I think, in this positioning. He's absolutely flying here.
Yeah, he certainly is. And I'll tell you who else is flying. Drew Kenny able to get the move there on Edward Trippett. Just sheer tenacity, being able to stick it in there on the inside, going down into turn one, holding that out. And I think that even though Drew Kenny finds himself about 3.3 seconds behind Randy Lervold here at this point, looking at the lap times, I gotta think that Drew Kenny may just be able to close in and maybe get a top three before this thing is said and done.
I can absolutely see that from him here. Definitely looking strong for Kenny in this race. 11th on the grid this time by. 4th, of course, to start, so has the speed as well, like so many of these other drivers here. Ronald Simeon, 14th at the moment. Seeing a lot of movement. He's got Benson here. Benson also working his way forwards as well. 5th on the grid to start. 26th finish after the incidents in the first heat. Now 10 spots from where he started, so some of these guys definitely coming through the field here. We've also seen, well, Kaufman unfortunately really has struggled here. 2nd on the grid, only up, actually no, he's where he started. He's 24th, he's gained nothing here. Is this a different driver than we've seen in the first race?
I'm not sure there, Rachel. Oh, as we've got a little bit of action here coming down into turn one. That's going to be Michael Adams able to make the move on Levi Nelson. Just a good draft pass there into turn one. Able to take advantage of it. Nelson here going to maybe see if he can have a little bit of a fight back, but they're going to find themselves right up into this gaggle in front of them with Kenny, Trippett, and Frost. So this is about to be a 5-car battle that they're going to stumble into.
Yeah, that'll make things quite interesting if they can keep themselves in line here as they wander into that little battle zone. Definitely not that simple for some of these drivers. It's going to get very messy, in fact, in front of them. A lot of guys really pushing here, and that does involve Adams, Nelson, a few others. Roseman here, we're looking at on board him. Looking towards Simeon, looking at the inside here. Will Simeon leave the door open? He does. He recognizes this guy's coming at the inside a lot faster. As the line makes it through, no issues at all. Move Todd Roseman up one more.
Yeah, Roseman continues to gain positions here. A good run in that number 19, just gaining up 12 spots here at this point. He is your biggest mover of the races. I think he was also able to get by Ronald Simeon there, who looked like he had a bit of a bad run through turns 10 and 11. Simeon took a little bit of a look to the inside. That wasn't going to play itself out for him. As we look a little farther up in the field right here, Michael Adams thinking about a move on Frost.
Absolutely is. Adams working his magic here. Can he get through on Frosty, the Go-Man? Not close enough to really do anything with this point, I think, but he could definitely be the next target from what we're seeing.
Yeah, I think he could. Adams is really impressing me here at this point, Rachel. He is very, very good moving his way up through the field. He's been able to get by Frost here at this point. He's got Trippett right ahead of him right now, and he's only about 0.5 of a second behind him. So I think this number 13, he may be in 6th right now, but he is 6th with a bullet. He is going to be continuing to move his way up through the field.
Very much so. Very much so indeed. Nothing could really compete with him at this particular point in time. Absolutely pushing this thing to the nth degree, but it's going to come down to when he has time for it. We are about 9 minutes into this race here. We know this is about when the window opens up, this middle 25 minutes or so. When do you pit? It's a big window, and it could change strategy hugely, especially with traffic on the circuit.
Yeah, it certainly could, and I think it's going to be a combination here of looking at where that traffic is, where that's going to play itself out. Is here comes Adams again, looking down to the inside of Trippett. He knows he can make that move into turn one, gets it done. Little bit of contact, though.
Ooh, I thought he had cooked that, DJ. I thought he was going way too deep. Trippett was just going to go, or Frost was just going to keep his cool and undercut him. Oh, but I think someone has slipped on black ice.
I think they may have just a little bit as Frost just kind of bobbling there a little bit. Now he's going to line up Edward Trippett and see if he's able to get anything.
Yeah, looking for an opportunity on Trippett there. It's going to be a few minutes though before he can catch up to Trippett, I think. But oh, that got race control may take a look at that because they did get a little handsy.
Yeah, there was a little bit of bumping and banging there, but we'll have to see what race control says. Again, they are certainly keeping their eye on that. But look at this close run here. Trippett, Frost, and now Levi Nelson able to close in on the back of this battle. And here comes Nelson on that very aggressive line that I talked about going down into turn 12. Nelson later on the brakes, able to get the move done on Frost.
Frost really struggling at this point of the race. Surprising, he's been very quick from what we've seen. But right now, the thaw is happening. It's just not sticking with him. I don't know what's going to happen to him, but looking back at the positioning here, we're going to move on to 15 again, countering Nelson. Can he go around the outside like we saw earlier? Because it was actually an inside move we saw from Adams, but looks to hold the outside. Will hold the position into 1 through 2. Can he hold it through? Will he clear him enough to get 3? He will not. Nelson holds it.
Very good defense there from Levi Nelson, as I thought for sure that there may have been a little bit of a fight back there from Frost, but he's able to hold that around. Now the question is going to be, is Nelson able to close in a little bit on Edward Trippett in front of him, or is this going to play back into the hands of Mark Frost? It's a pretty big gap up to Edward Trippett, and let's see what that snowman-adorned machine is able to do here at this point, or if Levi Nelson has got the speed now that he's got himself a little bit of clean air.
We always know just how important clean air is in a race like this to making good progress going forward, so we'll have to see what he can deploy to take this race further forwards. Right now, though, what's our gap looking for Bowers? Is it meteoric? Yeah, it's another 4 seconds already on John Gibson. Gibson holding strong in second. After 8th in qualifying, we see a car off there. Who was that? That was one of our front-end cars. Or it was a back marker getting out of the way, I believe. That was, in fact, a back marker.
Yeah, I believe it was DJ Sell that was off there, so that's what it was. Whew. Drew Kenny, I'll tell you what, though, he has been able to catch back on the back of Randy Lervold here at this point, just like we predicted he might, Rachel. And I have got to be keeping my eyes in the back of my head here if I'm Randy Lervold, because Drew Kenny is looking to be a master on the binders here, very, very late on the brakes.
It's not the first time he's done it. We've seen that quite a bit, in fact, from Kenny. So I'm excited to see how he goes with this one and what he does with it. But yeah, definitely a big advantage in this positioning. Got it done there, and he's really being brave, which I think is important on a track like this, where passing is hard. You've got to make opportunities.
Yeah, you really do. You've got to create those opportunities for yourself. You can't wait around and just rely on the draft to be able to do that. You've got to be able to go for those moves when they present themselves and build yourself into it. Here as we jump back with Stacey Iwata right now, he is the latest to sort of join in on that train, closing out on the back of Alex Lidback right now. Lidback riding just behind Frost.
Very much so there. We'll see what Lidback can do here. Alex has been pushing pretty hard at the moment. 7th on the grid and running 9th right now. Started 11th, of course, at the beginning of the heat. So he's been steadily making his way forwards here, Frost. I don't know, he looked incredibly strong last time, but now he seems to be a little bit more... Maybe he's watching his tyres. Although the bobble says he might have used them already, it's hard to say.
Yeah, he may have used them up here a little bit earlier on, but we'll have to see. Oh, I'll tell you who's trying to use up all of his tires. Drew Kenny down to the inside there of turn 4. Oh, how did he not make contact there with Randy Lervold? That is the move of the race thus far.
Yeah, I want to see a replay of that. That was a fantastic move by Drew Kenny. That is absolutely how you win motor races. Or here, get on the podium. Let's see this again. Look at him setting up here through the corner. Big speed he gets. He's in the danger zone. He's attacking and pushing hard here. He's going to nudge it up the inside and, oh, late on the brakes. Holds it tight. Slips across the nose. That is beautifully executed and beautiful awareness by both drivers there to not collide. It would have been so easy there to just absolutely dump each other.
Yeah, very, very easy to do there going into that corner. But now, Rachel, as we close down here, getting closer and closer to that halfway point here in this race, I've got to start questioning when these drivers are going to start bringing the cars down into pit lane. We've seen things starting to tee off in the other classes around the halfway point, which would be about the 30-minute mark. So I've got to think here that we're probably getting ready to see these drivers come in probably within the next 5 to 10 minutes.
I think so too. I don't know if they'll wait 30 minutes, but I'm thinking 20 to 25 could be plausible here. Maybe halfway to kind of even things out, balance the fuel with this car. But at the moment, we're seeing good, strong performance. The gap for Bowers is not as big as we thought it might be. Only gained 0.8 seconds over Gibson as we see one of the cars coming in. It's our EMS machine, Roseman. Where's he up to right now? He's up to 19th from 26th. Could be clearing himself some free track air here, but he's out from pit road after getting his fuel and going again.
All right, so that is the first driver that we've seen, and crucially looking at about a 10.2 pit stop time in pit lane. Now, the other thing to keep in mind about this is an interminably long pit lane here. It is a very, very slow, very, very long pit lane at Indianapolis, so you're going to lose a whole bunch of time as Roseman is coming out right now. Looking at that pit lane cone-to-cone delta, Rachel, it's over a minute. That's how much time you lose when you have to come in and make these mandatory stops.
Yeah, it's apocalyptically slow. The entry is complicated, which means you have to be careful, otherwise you're in the grass. So it's not the easiest pit entrance, and it's thankfully everyone's going to lose the same amount of time. So it feels like an eternity, but it is fair.
Yeah, it very much is. Everybody's got to serve it, but that's got to calculate into your math a little bit. We talked about trying to avoid the traffic maybe coming in when you're coming up behind some back markers. Well, the flip side of that is you don't want to come back out of pit lane with a bunch of drivers around you. If you're up in the lead or if you're into a battle with another car, you don't want to lose any of that time. So it's going to be interesting to see how these drivers choose to make their decisions in terms of pit stops. I'll tell you, one driver's getting held up a little bit here. That's Scott Bowers. Art Schwartz right ahead of him. Looks like he's holding up the leader ever so slightly.
So this is where I would choose to make a pit stop if I'm in a position where I'm being held up. Go in, you can't lose out because you might get a better run. Advantage here is if you can make time on that difficult pit entry here, you can actually have a great time. You can gain so much. You've got to push it, and it can be quite brave, but you can do it, and you've got to just give it some optimism. Of course, the pit timing only starts at the line, so you've got quite a bit of ground there to really accelerate through, as long as you can be careful, because it is very flat compared to what you've been running on.
Yeah, very, very much so. You got to be careful about that. We check back on one of the drivers who's been moving his way up through the field right now. Levi Nelson up into 7th place. He's only got about 0.7 of a second between himself and Edward Trippett. Now, crucially, that's going to be within the draft range, but he needs to be a lot closer to be able to close on in if he wants to get that. So he's got to try to find that time through some of the twisty bits on the track. Let's see if he's able to do it. Looks like he's losing out a little bit under braking into turn 1. Actually lost about 1/10 of a second.
Yeah, unfortunately did there, but he'll hopefully gain that back as we go here. But again, braking has been the nemesis of this race, DJ. We've seen so many people losing out, getting into the corners, getting out of corners. A lot of people going into them a little too hard, trying to gain on people and then suffering on the exit of the corner.
Yeah, and that's kind of the give and take you have to figure out here when you talk about Indianapolis. You've got to be very, very careful in terms of trying to dive on into the corners. You don't want to be too late on the binders most times because it's going to sacrifice your speed, specifically looking coming out of turn 10 right there or down through 12 and 13. If you try to carry a little bit too much momentum into the corner, you're just going to end up losing it on these long straightaways.
Yeah, certainly are there, and this is one of those situations where Indy is a flow track. You've got to keep the average speed up around it to really get a great lap time here. It's not a stop and start. You've got to flow. And the man that's flowing right now, Scott Bowers, 5.4 seconds. No stop for him yet, but we expect to see him in very soon. It's going to be interesting to see what he pulls from this, but 13 laps in the books for him. We have 21 minutes on the cards. It's looking pretty unstoppable, DJ. The gap just keeps widening.
Yeah, it keeps winding, but crucially, Rachel, we're past that 15-minute point where we saw the heat race, and it doesn't look like Bowers has been able to really extend more than 5 or 6 seconds up at the front of the field. I would have expected him to pull out more. Maybe, though, he is saving his tires like we've talked about a couple of different points over the course of this race.
I think he might be. It depends. It's going to be hard to say, of course, but look at Johan Nye here. Potomac region in the 16th place, started 25th. Big move from him. Up 9 at the moment. Looking towards Simeon ahead of him. Simming himself up 5 spots, so some good gains back here. Unfortunately, some of these guys are really struggling. Kaufman only up 2. It's been an awful race for him compared to what he had in the heat. Only gained 2 spots. I'm shocked after his qualifying.
Yeah, I am too, Rachel. And you know, it's kind of like you said earlier, Indy's such a rhythm track. I wonder if Eric was just able to really get a good lap down and wasn't able to get that long-term rhythm. We check back, though, Michael Adams starting to put some pressure to the back of Randy Lervold. Lervold having a little bit of lap traffic in front of him. That's Art Schwartz. Is that going to compromise his entrance down into turn 1? I'll tell you what, Michael Adams is certainly hoping so, as that gap is going to be at about 6-7 tenths of a second. I think that traffic there from Schwartz hurt both of them equally, so that battle's not going to fire off into fireworks here quite yet.
No, not yet, unfortunately, but a lot of ground still to go with on that and see how we play this forward. It's the 13 there. Trying to make some good speed here. Looking forward towards Levold. That's Adams. Here on board with Nelson. Behind Trippett. Close here in an attack region for the Pacific Northwest region driver. Can he do anything with this?
Not going to be able to get it down into turn 7, but he's going to keep trying to push ahead here as much as he can. Remember, you can get that sneak attack move down into turn 12. By the way, bad news for fans of David Purdy, as it looks like the 0-1-0 has officially retired from the race. Here's Nelson, though. Is he going to go for the dive down into 12? I think he's a little bit far back. He certainly thinks about it as he's later on the binders, but he's got to check his momentum.
He certainly does. Well, we're at the halfway point. We're going to have a quick rundown of your field here, but before we do not forget, Six Sigma Sim Racing was founded in 2021 by automotive engineers as a new sim racing equipment provider. After only a year, they now have divisions in the USA, Japan, Australia, and Europe, providing the best valued sim racing cockpits and peripherals. As a PCA member or sim racing driver, Six Sigma offers 10% off from website selections, and their coupon code is PCA Sim. For more information about Six Sigma Sim Racing, please visit our website at sixsigmasimracing.com. Let's have a look down on your rundown for the field here, as we have Scott Bowers leading here 6 seconds clear of second place John Gibson. Gibson started 8th in qualifying, got second in the heat, and he's still running a second right now. Behind him, Drew Kenny up from 4th of the grid, went down to 11th, back up to 3rd, so he's gaining now. We have Randy Levold currently fighting here with Adams and Trippett. Behind him is Mr. Adams up from 14th where he started, now in 5th. 6th place is Trippett with Levi Nelson behind them in 7th. Mark Frost, his tyres seeming to be melting right now, unfortunately, for Frosty the Go Man. Unfortunately, behind him is going to be Alex Lidback, who's looking to take advantage of that. 10th is Stacey Owata. Behind them is going to be Jack Stevenson. We have Andy McCune, Tom Crane, Johan Rieber, Johan Nye in 15th, Robert Galejas in 16th, Ronald Simeon in 17th. He's just leaving pit road. Jason Sherwood 18th, Todd Roseman is in 19th, Tim Schrock is in 20th, James Hemmig in 21st, Robert Benson 22nd, Art Schwartz 23rd, Eric Kaufman 24th, back where he started unfortunately, DJ Sell on pit road in 25th, and Purdy retired. Well, DJ, what have I missed on track while we've been talking about where everyone's currently running in the field? Anybody close?
Well, it looks like here that one of the battles that we continue to watch here is this battle between Edward Trippett, Levi Nelson, and now Mark Frost, who has been able to catch up to the back of this. And here, Rachel, this is the point that I was talking about, is Tom Crane is going to be the latest to come down into pit lane. We've only got about 16 minutes left to go in this race. If I am in the position of Levi Nelson, I'm thinking about coming into pit lane and seeing if I'm going to be able to jump Edward Trippett by the pit stops.
It would be a great opportunity to do so. We'll have to see if he can pull that off. But at the moment, pit stops would be the real advantage spot here when you're in traffic, difficult to pass. A great pit cycle, you could make big ground. We'll have to see if he can do that.
Yeah, we'll have to see if he can. It looks like he's going to be pretty close here as they come down through 12. A little bit of a wider line. I thought for a second here that that was going to be him coming down into pit lane. But I'll tell you what, he is under 0.2 of a second here. This could be the run that Levi Nelson was waiting for. Here comes the number 15 on the 444. He's going to tuck up behind, get plenty of the draft. Look for the poke out to what will be the inside. No defense there from the 444. Here they come, Rachel.
Absolutely going for it here on the inside. We'll see if the move can work. Oh, the outside even. No cutback for the 444. Can't make it happen. Good hold, though, for Nelson.
And it looks like here the Jack Stevenson is going to be the latest to come down into pit lane in the number 116. So that is going to be about the, let's call it, third or fourth driver to come on into pit lane here at this point. I've got to think that we're going to be seeing some more coming on in here. As we've said, only under 15 minutes to go. Let's see what happens.
Down to the wire here, down to the length of our heat race, but with a lot more heat in their tyres, more importantly here. So most people are looking at pit road. We've seen 6.4 for Bowers. Still no pit stop for him, though, what I'm looking at. So when do you come in for the lead? At the last possible second?
You know, I think some of that may depend a little bit on how the traffic plays out in front of you, but I think for Bowers here, if all things are equal, you come down in at the last possible second, as it looks like we've got a couple of more drivers peeling off down into pit lane out of P8. Going to be Mark Frost coming on in, as it looks like he is going to be the latest to take that pit stop.
Would seem that way here. Frost will come down. Do you think he might take tyres if he's melting those, or is he too long?
No, I think it's going to be way too long of a pit stop, especially considering we're seeing times for those who have come on into the pits here of about 10 to maybe 12 seconds for a good stop. If you take tires, that's going to add at least another 20 seconds because you are not able to simultaneously take tires and fuel in these GT3 cars. More drivers coming down into pit lane, though. Andy McCune and Johan Nye.
Yeah, they certainly do here. We'll see what they can do with that, but Johan Nye comes down, McCune down, that's 13th and 14th place. Leader coming past again, not going for it. Looking at the Vold and Nelson and I believe Trippett here. Nelson trying to hold him off a charging Trippett. Trippett wants to get through here again. These two have been battling for quite a portion of this race.
Yeah, they really and truly have. And you know, there's some good and bad things about that when you have all of that happening. As it looks like here, if I can judge that line correctly, no, he keeps doing that to me. Levi Nelson keeps throwing me for a loop as Drew Kenny and Michael Adams now both coming down into pit lane.
Yeah, absolutely are. It's going to be important for those guys. That's from 4th and 5th, so we'll see where they filter out with this. Should be pretty similar. Came in pretty good order. Hopefully a good stop in the box, and we'll have them out of here in no time.
Yeah, hopefully they'll be in and out all their way. Also, it looks like Stacey Owada going to be coming down into pit lane. Here is the 917. I think at this point in the race, Rachel, it's fair to assume that whenever we see this leading car come down into the pits, that is going to be when the fuel tanks are dry and we see everybody coming on into pit lane.
Entirely possible, I think, as they do run the clock down a little bit further here. No major movement yet. We've got a black flag for Benson. That could play a part there. Benson's down there in 24th. I believe he's served that already. We've got our track map here for I'm having a stroke. Indianapolis Motor Speedway. See big gaps on the track. 10 laps to go here, but you see just how condensed and busy the circuit is, DJ.
Yeah, it really and truly is. You know, Indianapolis is a truly massive and awe-inspiring facility. By the way, Randy Lervold coming on into pit lane. It is something that really and truly takes your breath away whenever you see it and you realize just how big it is. But you're right, Rachel, this interior road course really overlaps in and over and on itself, and it condenses this track down, makes everything feel very, very tight around here. It's a very interesting roval as rovals go, and I've got to tell you, with these new updates that have been put into iRacing, obviously this particular layout has been in effect for about 5 or 6 years now at this point, but I really like the flow of this track. It's really quite spectacular.
Does seem that way, yeah. And we're seeing Trippett head down pit road here. I think Levold's also on. Nothing for Gibson and Bowers yet. That's going to be telling. 7.3 seconds gap, though. When do you go? Do you think you can't eat 7 seconds in pit road? So you just have to pit, I suppose, if you're Gibson.
Yeah, I think you do. You're not going to be able to make that up. John Gibson has just got to do everything he can. Knows who's coming in. Here is your leader down into pit lane.
Yep, in fact, Gibson reacted to your leader, Scott Bowers. So both 1 and 2 are on pit road here. Nelson has, in fact, not pitted yet. So expect Nelson, I think, in as well here.
Yeah, Nelson looks to be, he is the only driver that hasn't come down into the pits, and here comes the number 15 here at this point. So that is going to be pretty much all your drivers. Looks like James Hemmig is the only one who has not come down into the pits, but I expect him to come by this one, this next time by.
I think these guys are on the last of their fuel here, so it's you got to come at this point. It is... The fun's been had. Now it's time to refuel and get back out and finish this thing. We are under 10 minutes to go, 9 minutes 30 on the clock here. And it's looking pretty solid for Scott Bowers. Great clean pit stop for him too. Same for John Gibson.
Yeah, everybody able to do around that 10-second point stop, as it looks like Randy Lervold is having to come back down into pit lane. I wonder, Rachel, if that's maybe a pit lane speeding issue, or if it could have been a penalty assessed for incident limits.
Could be either, but I think there's a good chance that is a pit road penalty, given that it was right after pit road. So more likely it's that, but it could technically be both.
Yeah, as there we take a look back at your leader, Scott Bowers. The gap holding up at about 0.7 of a second, so he is going to be in pretty good position there as they run. Bad news, though, for Levi Nelson. Remember, he was able to get that move done on Edward Trippett a little bit earlier. Now Nelson finds himself right behind Trippett again, so this is going to be a battle that he is going to have to re-litigate here. It's Tim Schrock getting out of the way for both of the drivers, but this is currently, after the pit stops, your closest battle out on track.
Definitely is, and we'll keep our eyes focused on this one for a little while. Quite an interesting one, in fact, in many regards. These guys circling themselves around as we get a... Oh, a mistake! Where was that? Did I see what I thought I saw there? I'm pretty sure I saw one of them just dump it into the grass. It might have been a lap car near them. I think that could be what I saw. Yeah, that was further down the field. Ignore me. I was having a mental moment there, as that was not anything that happened. But the gap here is still constant, but over Kenny and Bowers. Although Kenny's ahead of Gibson. Kenny has pitted, right? We know that for sure.
Yeah, Drew Kenny came down into pit lane early. He came in on lap 19, and it looks like as a result of that, he has been able to jump John Gibson up into P2. Gibson about 2 seconds behind, but we got to go on board with Nelson here, because he's going to make the move down into turn 1. Contact between himself and Trippett.
Oh, super close. Yeah, gets through though. So does exactly what he needs to do here on Trippett. But wow, yeah, and Drew Kenny, yeah, huge advantage there. Lap 19, lap 20, pit stop for him. The surprise move there, 2 seconds ahead of Gibson, in fact.
Yeah, I'm a little bit surprised by that as well. Hopefully, Drew Kenny will be able to keep up this pace and hold into second place position. We'll be able to talk to him as they continue to go along, and we'll hopefully be able to chat with him in podium interviews, because I'm very interested in that. The pit stop delta didn't look like it was all that much different in between the two, but Rachel, I'll tell you what, I'm looking at the cone-to-cone time here for Drew Kenny. He was about 3 seconds faster than John Gibson cone to cone. So that tells me that he was able to get down onto the binders a little bit quicker than John Gibson, and that is what gave him the advantage.
Certainly was a huge advantage, in fact, there for him to get it done. Not the easiest way to get a pass made, but under brakes, especially at a rhythm track, it's bold, but it works, and it may cost you overall lap time, but for the position you're fighting for, it could be a huge advantage. Look at Nye here on board. Looking forward towards Reba. Right ahead of him there, coming through Indy turn 2. Down into this little infield nook here. Strong running from Nye. Reba, a bit of a mistake there, went wide. We'll have to see if he's cooked his tyres as well. We're seeing a lot of these guys starting to really drift on the corners here, DJ. I think this is where the tyres have decided, I've had enough.
Yeah, I've got to agree with you there, and also want to point out something from Johan Nye there. He cut the corner ever so slightly coming through turn 13. Now, that's not going to be enough for a slowdown penalty necessarily, but you've got to be a little bit careful. We talked a little bit about the incident limit points potentially coming back to bite on these drivers, and that could come back to get him. And while we're on that subject, we were speculating a little bit earlier on Randy Lervold. It looks like here that he's actually running at 0 incidents right now, so Rachel, your assumption was right. That was a pit lane penalty there for Lervold.
Yeah, when people get a penalty after leaving pit road, it invariably is because of that. Usually because it's so easy, even with a pit road limiter, you'll find they don't quite understand, in many cases, the pit segments we have on pit road. You can speed in one of them, usually entry or exit, and the average does not meet out. So if you speed into it, if you slow down more than the speed limit, you're actually good. It's your average time in that sector of pit road. So by slowing down more than you need to, you can neutralize the penalty before it happens. Unfortunately, most just slow down, hit pit road, hit the limiter, keep their foot down, which will cost you.
So we jump back to check out a replay here of Levi Nelson. Remember, this is one of the big movers that we've been following over the course of the race. I think this may not be the best running here, though, for the number 15. As I see him on my timing screens, currently in 8th place. That is down from where he was. Gets onto the binders, going down into turn 12. A little bit of clip of the curbing there, catches a little bit of the grass, and that's going to open up a little bit of an opportunity for the 444. And Levi just getting it all wrong out into the grass there around the outside, has to catch the car, bring it back around, and that is going to be dropping him down into P8.
Yeah, very much is. We'll see where that routes us out, but P8 will do for now, I think, for Nelson. Strong fighting there. Frost is managing to keep the Thor at bay, as he's managed to hold 7th place at the moment. Not as strong as what he had, but definitely better so far than what he was experiencing. We had him slipping back quite significantly, in fact, for a portion of this race. Trippett running in the clean air right now. Roseman. Hang on. Has this chap pitted? Yes, he did. Wow, really early. The genius strikes, I think, from Todd Roseman. 5th on the grid. 26th in the race after an incident, unfortunately for him. Back in 5th, DJ. Did we
Really
see a genius
remarkable
play?
Yeah, I mean, that is absolutely what you've got to do. And the crucial thing to remember there for Roseman is it's not like he is just running around here for bragging rights alone. Remember, he came into this race leading the championship. And so being able to put himself into this position, his second place competitor is actually Michael Adams, who is now just 1 position ahead of him. So now that he finds himself up into 5th, only 1 behind Michael Adams, he is going to stop that bleeding a little bit, and he is going to allow for this championship battle to continue on here.
Yeah, really are, and I'm looking forward to seeing how this one will conclude in 2 minutes and 15 seconds. So only a handful of laps left in the books for us today. And who will be racing for a position? Who's racing on track right now? Bowers is in clean air, 6.4 seconds ahead of Kenny, who's snuck up there. He's 2 seconds ahead of Gibson, who's catching him. There's traffic, which could be a factor. Adams a little bit further back as we see a wobble from a lap car. Roseman clean air as well. Trippett clean, Frost clean, Nelson clean. Is pretty solo running for the top 10.
Yeah, pretty solo running out here as they go. Not looking like there's a whole bunch of battles here at this point, as everybody's really and truly kind of keeping themselves close together here. The closest battle that we have is what's on your screen right now between Johan Nye and Jonathan Reber. This is the battle back down for 14th position.
Yeah, 14th looking like a pretty good one at the moment. Reber trying to find an opportunity, or defend, I should say, against Nye. Johan Nye, the racing guy, looking for the chance here, gaining good ground with the draft, but it could be enough for an absolute hover slam of a entry into turn 1, but I don't think he quite goes for it. No, he holds back here a little bit. He'll keep himself in relatively good stead, but that could have been a setup for a really nasty move, but he kept it clean. White flag is out for your leader. Scott Bowers there doing what he needs to do. been a flawless event for him tonight. Really looking to be one of those guys that wants to put himself forward for the higher classes. I think next season, DJ, he's really showing he's got absolute consistency.
Yeah, he's doing a really fantastic job here, and crucially considering Season 9 has really put an emphasis on clean driving. Rachel, he has got a 0x right now, so that is absolutely what you want to see if you're up at the front of the field.
Oh yeah, definitely. Clean race and consistent racing speed and performance, so incredibly potent and fantastic to see there. I'm really surprised though by Roseman and Kenny. They've both pulled some strategy moves here today, off strategy from what the rest of the pack has done, and it's been paying off massively.
Yeah, it certainly has. As here we check in, Bowers coming around turn 13 right now. He has got one more corner and a straightaway to go to take a double victory here at Indianapolis.
A fantastic race here for Scott Bowers. First on the grid, first in the heat, and first in the feature for round 4 of the Challenge Series at Indianapolis.
Absolutely fantastic stuff. Drew Kenny down to the inside there. Is he sputtering by chance, I wonder? No, it looks like he's been able to cross over the line, no problem. So he is all good to go. We look a little bit farther back in the field here at this point at Mr. Frost right now. This is going to be your 7th place finisher, provided things go well, or if he's able to catch up to Trippett up ahead of him.
I don't know if he'll catch Trippett, but he is looking. The gap's too big. They'll come across the line with Trippett in 6th and Frost in 7th.
But farther back down in the order, here is the 147 of Jonathan Reber. Remember, this was the battle we were keeping our eye on between himself and Johan Nye. Nye able to get on by him and build a gap of about 9/10 of a second here as they run. I think this is going to be pretty much your last close battle to really close out this race. Little bit of a look there for Reber, but not enough coming down into 13.
Won't be close enough, unfortunately, for Reber, but that is all she wrote here at Indy. Last couple of cars will come across the line, and we'll go to a quick commercial break. We'll come back with your post-race results and podium interviews. Don't go anywhere.
A little earlier if that's going to be the case. He's actually got a nose ahead as they come down into the braking zone. He's going to do it the hard way.
Welcome back to the PCA Challenge class here at Indianapolis Motor Speedway. And here are our post-race results. A flawless victory, first of the grid, first in the heat, and first in the feature. Scott Bowers takes the maximum points here tonight. Second place, Drew Kenny. And the third step on the podium, John Gibson. Fourth place, Michael Adams with Todd Roseman in 5th after a massive strategy call there. We have Edward Trippett in 6th place, Mark Frost in 7th, Levi Nelson in 8th, Stacey Owata in 9th, and Alex Lidback in 10th.
In 11th, it was Tom Crane, followed by Jack Stevenson with Ronald Simeon ahead of Johan Nye, who was able to get that pass done in the final parts of the race. Jonathan Reber there in 15th. Randy Lervold only able to get 16th today, but he was the last driver on the lead lap. Then it was Robert Galeas, followed by Andy McCune, Tim Schrock, and Jason Sherwood to round out your top 20.
Last cars in the field there. 21st, Eric Kaufman, unfortunate for him. Art Schwartz in 22nd. James Hemmick 23rd, Robert Benson 24th, DJ Sell 25th, and David Purdy, our only retiree today, in the 26th place. Well, we hopefully have a chance to chat to some of our here today. I believe we have Mr. Bowers here today. Scott, do we have you?
Yeah, I'm here.
Only thing I can say to this is, wow, Mr. Consistency. Grid, heat, and feature. Not a single challenger. How did that happen?
I think it was based on that qualifying. I knew that it was going to be super important to get a good qualifying in because of the potential for that turn one, which looks like it played out. I don't know exactly what happened behind me, but yeah, if you have an incident in that turn one, it kind of destroys the rest of your day.
So we did see, of course, 0x for you as well. So a flawless race tonight.
Thank you. I think it was a lot of practice laps and just trying to be cautious.
Just tell me, what is the secret to a good race? We're not going back here again this season. You can tell us. What is the secret to a great lap at Indy?
I don't know if there's a secret to it. For me, it's just practice, putting in the time and just trying to hit my marks.
Well, you know what? That's as good an answer as any. Make sure you hit your marks in practice. Because our dentists say to brush your teeth. Either way, Scott, a fantastic race today. Great for the points, of course, to helping you out in that respect. Do you have your eyes set on any other classes this next season?
Yeah, I don't know how they classify things going forward, but yeah, I'm assuming that the top finishers in this will move up. Yeah, I enjoy. This is my first season racing, and it's been a pleasure. So I really enjoy it.
Fantastic. Anybody you'd like to give a shout out to or thank for this?
Yeah, I mean, obviously my wife and the kiddo for all their support, and just the other guys that I race with on Tuesday nights, a lot of encouragement, and those guys race in the national series as well. So it's a great group of people.
Fantastic. Well, thank you so much for joining us. Scott Bowers, 0x, podium, first on the grid, twice. Thanks for joining us, Scott.
You're welcome. Have a great night.
Well, next up, we've got Drew Kenny, the man who jumped up to second place with pit strategy. He's standing by with DJ Clark.
Well, Drew, first things first, I want to talk to you about that call to come into the pits about 2 laps earlier than everybody else. Clearly paid out for you there. What was that strategy call?
I don't know. Just pitted early. I figured with traffic coming up, I was like, I might as well just get a quick head start. I finished with 0.1 gallons of fuel, though. So it was a bit maybe too low for my liking and lost fuel saving. But I just thought I'd get out of traffic, have clean track, and just kind of see what happens. And then when I saw that, I think Mike or Gibson was behind me, I knew I made the right move.
Well, clearly you did there. And talk to me a little bit about having to fight your way up through the field, up 9 positions on the day. When you came into this feature race, was this really about just full aggressive attack, or were you kind of laying back and letting things come to you?
Well, first time I drove the track was about at 8:40 p.m. today, so I bought it then, got some practice laps in. So I figured I'd probably have to come from the back, but the practice race was nice just to get an idea of what people were doing. And then, yeah, that's kind of my story, though. As you know, I kind of come from the back and slowly make my way up.
Indeed you do, my friend, and it's always makes our jobs easy because it's a pretty fantastic thing to be able to see you work your way up through the field. Let me ask you, though, next time out we head to Road America, what do you think it's going to be like for you there? You have a little more experience there?
Yeah, I enjoy the track. I like it. My dad crashed there once back in the day, so I make sure to take it easy up the hill under the bridge. But other than that, yeah, no, it's I like the track a lot. I'm actually really excited to go there. So good choice. Really hope though we can get some European circuits next season.
Well, fingers crossed for that, Drew. But as for today, a well-deserved second place in the feature race. Who makes this possible for you?
Yes, my wife Meg, my parents, and my cats as well. Just glad to have all of them.
All right. Well, thank you so much. That was Drew Kenny, your second place finisher here today. And now, Rachel, I believe you've been able to catch up with P3, John Gibson.
I have indeed. John Gibson, phenomenal race today. Fourth on the grid to start with. Lost a lot of positions in that heat. It was tumultuous, of course, and back up here to third for the finish. Just how crazy was it out there for you?
Well, once we got the race underway, in the heat race, we had that little bit of a debacle in turn one. But beyond that, it really was smooth sailing. So it was nice to have a clean race. For me, I've been working my way up, and I'm really excited to be here on the podium.
Well, it's a fantastic result, and making it happen is a huge one, of course. Anybody like to give a shout out to or thank for this?
Absolutely. I have 100% support from my wife, Kristen. She's really, worked with me, and she's been generous enough to get me a lot of my sim racing equipment. And of course, my two kids, my daughter, Abigail, and my son, Connor, with the time it takes to practice all the time, they're very supportive of it. So really appreciate them.
Oh, fantastic. Glad to hear that. And big shout out to them. John Gibson, thank you so much for joining us. Third place today. Cracking result.
Thank you very much.
Well, folks, with that in mind, as always, we will see you back here for the club class at 9:25 Eastern on Wednesday, the 7th of December, live here on Podium Esports. We'd like to thank the PCA Sim Racing title sponsors for Series 9, Pirelli, and Six Sigma Sim Racing, as well as a huge thank you to LastTenth.com. Better car, better driver. A big thank you to the steering committee at PCA Sim Racing, and a huge thanks to our team tonight, DJ, Ryan, and Dougie. Also, none of this is possible without those behind the scenes at Podium Esports: Ryan Bauer, Gary Sexton, and John Theodore. Thank you so much for watching tonight's broadcast of PCA Sim Racing. I'm Rachel Whiteford, and I'll see you on the track.